يا ذاكر الأصحاب كن متأدبا واعرف عظيم منازل الأصحاب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. وقال تعالى: ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون. Respected Honorable brothers, elders and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is a topic which people get excited about, but some people look miserable here. It's a topic which, for some reason, is not talked about as much, since culturally some things pertaining to this topic is a taboo. It's looked at from a perspective that this may be immodest to talk about. Within families, within the relationship between parents and children, many things are left out for people to just figure out because they don't know how to approach it. Added to that is where we are living in a very mixed environment of different cultures. With the difference of generations, sometimes there's an understanding gap. The parents and the family customs are sometimes something. But the younger generation, having born here, grown up here, may not understand those customs. So it leads to a conflict of understandings, a conflict of practices. Sometimes people go into marriage then not knowing exactly what they're going in for. Sometimes it's a break or make of the family. Now, given the era that we live in and the kind of strings, if you want to call it, that marriage comes with, amplified by the social media, maybe celebrities, there's a very big drive just to live a single life. Marriage is seen as a headache. Women are seen as a headache. Men are also seen as a headache. And nobody wants to be bothered to make an effort to make a relationship work. That is the reality you are facing. You ask someone, why are you not married yet? Can't be bothered. Why are you not married yet? There's too many things to get done. Or let me just enjoy myself for the time being, implying that once you get married, you can't enjoy yourself anymore. There's jokes about you get married and in prison for life. Maybe true. But you're imprisoned in a good way, away from the vices. With all these negative jokes, yes, we laugh at them, but subconsciously, it does have an impact. And those sort of jokes doesn't belong to our culture. If you analyze from the culture you come from. Even within the Islamic culture, the advice is to get married and to get married early. So this notion of marriage being a huge burden, it doesn't belong to us. It's come from somewhere else where maybe they didn't have values to live by. It's come from somewhere where marriage wasn't regulated. It comes from somewhere where there wasn't a standard set for them to live by. So therefore, we have to really detach from all of this negativity about marriage. And look at what Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, how a marriage is supposed to be, and what does it really look like? What's the purpose of having this relationship? So first and foremost, that one of the verses which are recited in every marriage is the first verse of Surah An-Nisa. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة. That all mankind have consciousness, be mindful of your Rabb, your Creator. Now when you think of Allah as the one who created you, made you look the way you look, and here He is addressing you. He's telling us He created us from a single soul, who was Adam alayhi salam. Then Allah Ta'ala says, وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا. And from that single soul, He created its partner. So as you can say Adam alayhi salam was created from soil, from dust or from clay. And Hawa, women, were created from the ribs of Adam alayhi salam. Now a person might think it's a bit of a diss that the women came from the man. Whereas, if you look at it, to be created from soil and dust may be considered actually inferior than being created from a higher substance which is living. And that was Adam alayhi salam. Allah Ta'ala saying that He created its partner from him. Goes on to say that from the two of them, Allah brought into existence a multitudes of men and women. Now this relationship between a man and a woman is what keeps life on earth. It is the very foundation of human existence. That if people did not get married, or got married to the wrong gender, then humankind will become extinct. That is the basic nature of our existence. So for life to exist on earth, there has to be this cycle of procreation through marriage. And within this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it's so magnificent, this relationship, that maybe prior to this marriage, you knew each other very little. And it was just based on information which was received. But upon that contract of marriage and the nikah ceremony being complete, Allah Ta'ala says, it is from His signs, i.e. His signs of His magnificence, that He created for you from amongst yourself, from amongst your own species. You're not getting married to an animal. You're getting married to a human like yourself. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so that you may find solace, you may find comfort, sukoon in her. And then He says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Then it is Allah who has placed love and compassion between you. And indeed that is a sign from amongst the many signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who really reflect over it. There isn't anything which creates such deep love for two people who love each other. There isn't anything that makes them deepen that relationship or that is more beneficial for them than the actual contract of nikah. We as humans, again, Allah has given us a natural system to follow. A person becomes mature at the age of what? At the age of 15, some earlier. You can say from the age of 12, 13, 14 and a half years old, Islamically they're considered to be mature, as adults. So anything which applies to a grown-up adult applies to a 14 and a half year old. For girls, they can become mature as early as 8, 9, 10 years old. Now, what does it mean to become mature? When you become mature, it means there's a change in your biology. There's a change within you, within the hormones, which brings about a different feeling and reaction. Before a person hits maturity, there is no feeling of attraction of the opposite gender. But when a person becomes mature, because of the change in hormones, now before, the way they saw a girl is not the way they see the girl now. The way they see a boy is not the way they see a boy now. But it's different. Now, since Allah has kept this natural mechanism in a person to feel inclined towards the opposite gender, Allah has also gave a mechanism for how to express that love or that attraction, which then builds up. Naturally, as a person grows, they grow in energy. They increase in energy. Everybody has a different temperament. Some have a higher level of testosterone. Some have a higher drive than others. Now, for all of this, Allah has kept a natural outlet. Now, it might sound a bit crude, but just to give you a little bit more, make it easier to understand. Everyone has a natural urge to go toilet. It's only an amount of time that you can hold it for before you burst, before it will have a negative impact on your own biology, your own body. The natural thing to do is to go and relieve yourself. Likewise, when a person is growing up, when they become mature, then there's this energy, there's this heat, and then there's a natural way of letting it out, which Allah has kept through marriage. Now, as long as that is going to be suppressed and kept at bay, then you're only waiting for an explosion. Naturally, there's an outlet, but then many people resort to unnatural ways of releasing themselves. And that is why the Prophet ﷺ said, يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج. That, O young people, whosoever from amongst you has the means, and means comes down to one, the physical strength, and two, for a man, the financial capability, then he should get married. فَإِنَّهُ أَغَضُّ لِلْبَصَرِ وَأَحْصَنُ لِلْفَرْجِ. Because it is more protective of your gaze and protective of your chastity. And if you cannot, you don't have the means to get married, فَعَلَيْهِ بِالصَّوْمِ, then fast. By fasting, you will be reducing the urge and thereby protecting yourself. So the importance of marriage cannot be stressed enough, especially in this day and age where everything is hypersexualized. Anywhere you look, There is some sort of attraction, there's some sort of fitna. You look into your phones, the same thing. You look into the billboard, same thing. And now if you're going to school, college, university, same thing. You go into workplaces, same thing. So how much does a person expect to survive in such an environment without falling into one haram or another? Either he'll be misusing his gaze or her gaze, or they'll be going even beyond that. With the ease of access that people have today, it is in fact, you can say zina is at the fingertips of one click. Just one click. You as parents won't even know. I would say they can leave their home in the morning, come back by dhuhr, and they've done whatever they've done, you don't even know. That's how easy it's become. That's how available it's become. And that's how discreetly it can be done. So all the more in the environment that we live in, it's extremely important that we look at marriage as the only healthy way for the young men and the young women to survive. With the movie culture, you have the likes of Bollywood and Hollywood. They portray love to be in a certain way. And they portray it to be one which is just absolute romance, love, and everything is as perfect as can be. The bride is also, by par excellence, the supermodel. And the man is also portrayed to be in that light. With such a culture, then expectations also are made in light of these movies. They don't only drive a person's urge, but they also set a lot of false expectations, which then the spouses are made to or expected to live by. So, coming down to the first point that I want to really emphasize is when Allah has made a natural way to do something, to go against it is only to harm yourself. It's only to harm your physical health, mental health, and definitely your spirituality. Marriage is such a thing, although it has what people have made out to be the negative connotations it comes with. It is by far the only halal way and the only proper way that you will truly, as a human being, experience the maximum amount of joy that you can. Because when Allah has made us to be a certain way, and for us as a species to be able to live in a certain way, then anything that goes against the way Allah has designed us will never allow us to live to our maximum potential in our happiness, in our physical self, and our mental health as well. So now, many questions have already come through. So based on that, I will just be going through the topic. Otherwise, it's such a vast topic, you don't know where to start and where to end up. But this will hopefully help the young ones, those who are at the age of getting married or in the near future getting married, and it will also help the guardians and the parents. Often they ask, when is the right time to get married? What is the right age to get married? Then, first and foremost, living here, you can't get married under the age of 18. Put it that way. So you've got to survive until then. Once you hit 18, the best thing you can do is to get married. Provided you as a man, you have the capability of looking after your wife. For some people, it will be fard to get married. For some people, it will be a sunnah to get married. For some people, it's merely mustahab and recommended. For some people, it will be haram to get married. So let's work in this order. Who's it haram? Who's it haram for? It's for haram for that person who knows that by them getting married, they will not be able to fulfill their spouse's needs. So if it's a man, you know, either because of your physical health, you will not be able to fulfill your wife's needs, haram for you to get married. You cannot hide such a thing. If you don't have the financial capacity either for yourself, you have your own finances, or you don't even have the support of finances from your family. So you have no means. And you're going to go into this marriage, you're going to bring somebody to your home, and then they will have to go through a hard time. Then for you, it's not permissible to get married either. So one is based on your physical health, and the other is your finances. For a person who's merely recommended is, either way, he won't be sinful for not getting married. He doesn't have much of an urge. He has decent finances. Now he can get married. He doesn't have such an urge, so he doesn't have to get married. Sunnah for that person who has something stable as an income, and his level of urge isn't so high. It's something which he can bear with, but he might have some things that he wants to get done, maybe studies, or maybe something else. Then for him it's sunnah to get married, but it won't be fard. Now a person, he has the finances, and he has a very high urge, a very high drive, and he fears now, or she fears now, that they may fall into sin. It's fard for them to get married. Now everyone will be different. Now the important thing for you to consider is, which environment are you living in? When I mean living in, which environment are you working in? Are you studying in? Which environment have you put your children into? Which environment have you put your daughter into? Now if you're going to send your daughter to a mixed environment, co-education, and expect them not to open their eyes, you need to wake up. If you expect them not to have any urges, you need to wake up. You have a responsibility as guardian, as parents, to understand the financial responsibilities that you have on them, the physical responsibilities, your responsibility to look after their physical health, their mental health, their emotions as well. A lot of the times their emotions are neglected totally. You think you feed them, you clothe them, you give them education, you think you've done your job. But the natural urge that life has, a person has, a human has, what are you doing to help them in that urge? That is often neglected. And if the topic comes up, it's delayed for one reason or another, but you haven't really asked that, do you really want to get married? Is it something very important for you at this time? If they say yes, take it as a hint that they have a very high urge. Otherwise, things will happen behind your back. It has happened, it is happening. I've had cases, people come and only want to get married after they have a child. It's happening. I'm not talking about America or somewhere far away. I'm talking about Slough. It will happen because it's against your natural biology. It's against their natural biology. So that is something very important to pay attention to as parents and guardians, is their needs when it comes to their emotions, or when it comes to their urges. And it should be something which is facilitated in the most respectful manner. When a person secures this aspect of their urges, they have completed half of their deen. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. إِذَا تَزَوَّجَ الْعَبْدُ فَقَدْ اسْتَكْمَلَ نِصْفَ دِينِهِ فَلْيَتَّقِ اللَّهَ فِي الْبَاقِي. that when a slave gets married, when a person gets married, then he has completed half of his deen. Now he should fear Allah in the remaining half. Now it could have many meanings. One is the Prophet ﷺ said, guarantee me two things, I guarantee you Jannah. Give me guarantee of what is between your jaws, and that's your tongue. And give me guarantee of what is between your legs, and I guarantee you Jannah. So your Jannah lies between these two things. You get married, you've secured half of your path to Jannah. Just protect your tongue for the rest. So it is considered half of your iman. Without that, you can be doing everything, but your mind will never be free. Sometimes we say, I'm going to study, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But then your mind will be occupied. Why? Because naturally, this is a cycle. You eat, there's an energy which is given off. That energy, now depending on how much you eat, what you eat also has an effect. Right? It will play a massive role. It will then need an outlet. The brain engages and starts to look for an outlet. Now as you look around, thoughts come. Thoughts translate into ideas. Ideas then translate into plans. Plans translate into an action. That's the common way anyone operates. Now, in order for us to then protect ourselves within this, the only way that Allah Ta'ala has kept for us, if we're on that level of urge, is to follow the correct procedures in having this outlet. Now, some people say, fine, how do I then go about this? How do I go about looking for a spouse? Finding the right one, finding the right man, finding the right woman. First and foremost, even before looking, the first thing you need to do is educate yourself. That what is marriage about? What intentions should you have going into a marriage? You can read a book on it. There's literatures out there. Attend talks and seminars or courses. Speak to people who are older than you, who are married. One advice I would give. And now, I'm not stereotyping. There are many people who probably have gone through a marriage and they've had a breakup. So there's divorcees. Now, every case on its merits. Everyone possibly has a genuine excuse. Everyone has their own story. Put that to a side. There are people who will put you off marriage if they have gone through a bad experience. They are not the people, with all due respect to whatever circumstance they've gone through, they are not the people you take ideas from. Nor are they the people, if you are looking to get married, they are not the people you should be talking to about marriage. They've had a bad experience. That bad experience doesn't mean you're going to have a bad experience. People talk about it and they adopt other people's bad experiences and they make it their own bad experience. As a default, think of marriage to be one Allah has blessed for you to be happy in. That is what Allah Ta'ala says. So take Allah's word above everybody else's and take marriage to be one which is of happiness. That's why the Prophet ﷺ got married. In fact, most of the Anbiya alayhi wassalatu wasalam got married. It is the sunnah of the Anbiya alayhi wassalatu wasalam. And Allah Ta'ala expresses the relationship between a husband and wife in amazing analogy. Allah Ta'ala says, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ. You could have many lessons to learn just from the ayah. Imagine this, Allah Ta'ala says that they, the women, are garments for you and you are garments for them. And that means a lot. When you look for a spouse, it's as though you are looking for the best garments to wear. Your garments play many roles. You'll have your summer garments. You'll have your winter garments. You'll have things which you would wear in the battlefield. Different garments for different purposes. They are overall there, one, to protect you. Some of the clothes that you wear, the garments that you choose are there to protect you from the cold. Certain garments protect you from the heat. Certain garments are bulletproof. That's one sort of a relationship a husband and wife has, of how they protect one another through thick and thin. Clothes, you don't wear any clothes. You like to have the best garments, the one that beautifies you the most. So in other words, you look for a spouse who's going to complement your beauty. You will only look better in that relationship with this person. You adorn each other. And like your clothes conceal your faults, husband and wife conceal one another. This is the way Allah has explained marriage to be, and that is the way you should view marriage. So going into the marriage, consult people who have been married and are married. The elder they are, the more wise they are. And especially if they've had a long-standing marital relationship. And they often will tell you such wisdom which you don't find elsewhere, and definitely not in your social media posts. They have wisdoms, tips, things to look out for, which will be of most value for you. There are also things such as premarital counseling. Now, who will need a premarital counseling? Someone who has these negative thoughts about marriage. One. Number two, those who have certain insecurities about themselves. Now they need to clarify. They need to get rid of the cloud that's on their mind, that fog that they have. Premarital counseling also for those who have maybe special circumstances and they need to know how to navigate their way through. So premarital counseling is also something which is used to offload any unnecessary baggage, so that you don't take all of this baggage into your relationship. Most importantly, which a lot of people don't like to do, is ask yourself, when you're going into this marriage, what role do you need to play? So if you are a husband, what role do you need to play in this marriage? A man, Allah has made the provider, the protector, the maintainer. الرجال قوامون على النساء. Qawamun here in this verse doesn't mean that you dominate over them in every aspect. It's an added responsibility which Allah gave you. And Allah says that you are the one who will provide. You will provide the finances, the food, the accommodation, and every need that she has. Every basic need that she has, as considered to be necessity, you have to provide for that. Now, where do you stand in this role? You are going to be a husband bringing somebody else's daughter. Now think of this carefully. There is this daughter. She has been looked after by her father and her mother. From the day she came into this world, she has been fed and clothed. Her every need was taken care of by her mother and her father. She was given this protection and this security under their roof. She was given protection from people insulting her, from people exploiting her. She was given security under that roof that she could sleep comfortably without having to think that, do I have to look over my shoulder? She was given the comfort she needed, the warmth that she needed. And after all those years of bringing her up in such a way, educating her, bringing her up, nurturing her, teaching her all these morals and things to do, now they are giving away this most cherished part of their life. Daughters, children, sons, they're not just a separate entity per se, but they are taken to be a part and parcel, a part of the mother's body, a part of their father's body. It's as though they have ripped apart a part of their own body and now they're handing it over to you. That's what it means. Then they sometimes travel miles, sometimes travel countries, sometimes move towns to come and live with you. What are you now going to do for her? How are you going to now look after her? Look at it from that perspective. Can you provide her that warmth and that comfort and that security? At this age that you are at now, what do you need to do? What kind of habits do you need to develop? A lot of people go into marriage thinking they're going to continue doing the exact same things that they did as they were single. Going out and hanging around with their mates. And they say to their mates, you know what? I've got her under the wrap, don't worry. Or they still think they can go out and spend hours with their friends, going out to eat, going to the gym, X, Y, and Z. Then they come home with some expectations. Then now they come home, this got to be ready, this is got to be ready, this is got to be ready. That's not how life works. Simple. That's not how life works. You can't expect to be living a single life to come home and then just fulfill your necessity and go back out into your normal life. So what kind of a person are you? What kind of a man are you? Can you do your own? Can you take care of yourself? Again, I'm going to give some examples, but just to put it into light, the generation we're dealing with. Can you clean the toilet after yourself? Or do you leave skid marks? Ask yourself this. Can you look after yourself? Do you know how to do shopping? Do you know how to do your groceries? Do you know how to manage your finances? Do you know how to budget? If not, these are the habits that you need to start developing before getting into a marriage. What are your personal habits? People overlook this. You're there, you eat on your own. You don't even know how you look when you eat. You can stuff yourself. But imagine now you are in your in-laws. How's that going to look on you? Eating habits. People overlook it. Seriously. So think of your own moral character, your mannerisms, your strengths, your weaknesses, and see where you need to improve. Same goes for the girl. Same goes for the young women. You're going into a home. You're going to be the homemaker. Now people don't like that word. You're going to be a housewife. You don't like that word. Why not? Do you have the right outlook to life? Do you see that marriage is about having this relationship, but yes, I still want to carry on my work, my career, my this, my that? What kind of a mindset do you have? Do you not have to look after a home? Do you not have to look after children? One factor, again, is something which you might consider to be something which is traditional, but do you know how to cook? A good meal solves a lot of problems. They say you should have hot food and a hot bed, and then you'll be happy. It's a fact. Do you know how to look after yourself as well? A lot of the time, young women know how to dress up to go outside. But there's also a concept of dressing up and looking good whilst being inside. And that is more important. Because one, you're doing it for somebody else to exploit you. And the other, you're doing it for yourself and those who love you. So the role that you'll be playing in your home, how well are you at that? If you go into a marriage not being good at your role, then again from the very onset you'll be having hiccups and problems. So these are certain things well before that you should be looking at and preparing for. Now there's different scenarios. We definitely won't be able to cover everything now. There will be different scenarios which you need to look at. Getting married whilst you are studying. Now every case on its merits, like I said, for some people it will be fard. For some people, no, it's okay. For some people it will be haram. But there is a way of making it work if the need is there. Marrying, culturally, this has happened and it's destruction. You never ever get someone married off with the intention that when they get married, they'll fix themselves. You know your daughter, you know your son. If you know they have bad habits, they're into drugs, they have some addictions, or they're just damn lazy, they don't want to work, but you think by getting them married, it's going to fix them up, that's the worst thing you'll ever do. You've destroyed the other person's life. That is haram to put someone through that. Absolutely haram to get married in that situation. So this is everything before marriage. Now going into a marriage, what is your intention of getting married then? It should be number one, marriage is an act of worship. That's the way you view it. It's an act of devotion. It's a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And then you have, yes, the added intentions on top of that to protect one's chastity for procreation. And procreation is one of them. Now again, in the era that we live in, people don't want to have kids. Or there's always a thing of just the two of you for X number of years. Then when you get bored of yourselves, then you're going to have a child. One's enough, maybe two is enough. The Prophet ﷺ in fact said, تَزَوَّجُ الْوَدُودَ الْوَلُودِ فَإِنِّي مُكَاثِرٌ بِكُمُ الْأُمَمِ. Marry such women who are very loving, and those who are fertile. Because I would be proud of my ummah in being in excessive numbers. So that is one of the objectives of marriage, for procreation. Like I said at the beginning, that is the only way that the humans will continue to exist. So these are the intentions that you should have going into marriage. Now what do you look for? What to look for in a marriage? Now men are different, women are different. There's a book called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. Close. Which the title just suggests, it's a good book by the way, it just suggests men are different, women are different. The way men are biologically made, how their brain is wired is different. The way women are biologically made in physical appearance, in hormones, in how their brains operate is different. So naturally, what a man looks for in a wife, it's not the very same things that a woman looks for in a man. But certain things there will be definitely things which are standard common between both. The Prophet ﷺ, in fact, in the hadith said, تُنْكَحُ النِّسَاء لِأَرْبَعٍ. That you get married to women for 4 reasons, or 4 things that you can look into. 1 is لِجَمَالِهَا, because of her beauty. 2, because of her wealth, لِمَالِهَا. وَلِحَسَبِهَا, and because of her lineage, what kind of a family background she's from. And the 4th, لِدِينِهَا, because of her deen. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَاظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ. Become victorious over choosing religion. Now what does that mean? Some might think neglect how she looks, forget what kind of a background she's from, forget about her financial status, only thing that matters is the religion. It's not really like that. But out of the many things that are taken into consideration, choose that one who is stronger in her deen. So, naturally everyone has an attraction to beauty, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there has to be an element of beauty, and beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So it isn't one which is portrayed and photoshopped. Everyone has a liking to a different aspect. Some have a fetish for the neck, some for the ears, some for toes, some for the nose, some for the eyes, you name it. Some for what they call a pear shape, whatever that may mean to you. If you understood, you understood. I'm not going to go further. But these are the things. Should you be looking at it? There's no problem. If that's what you're looking for. But you do not base your decision on just solely that. You base your decision overall on how pious she may be, how practicing she may be. So you can have someone who tick all boxes. She's the supermodel. In terms of finances, loaded. You don't have to even worry. She's got her own accommodation, house, everything. Background, no problem. But she's not practicing. The hadith will say, write it off. The reason because you're going to land in trouble. That beauty will be beauty only for a short amount of time. You know, you get these apps nowadays, you take a selfie of yourself and the app will then show you as an old person. Just keep that in mind. That very soon, you will look like that old person and so would she. It doesn't last. Wealth doesn't last. So things are temporary, but religion and a person who is practicing is something which will last. Not just for this world. Remember, your relationship when you get married is to last until you walk into Jannah together. That is how it is. So, فَاظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ. When you're going to... Now, I'm going to clarify this. What do you call religious? What do you call and how does a person who is religious, what does it look like? Some people will say, well, she wears a hijab. He's got a beard. That isn't the deen. Very sorry to say. Although we see it to be everything. Hijab is everything. Maybe niqab is everything. Maybe the beard is everything. Your thobe is everything. It isn't your deen. That's one aspect. In the context of marriage, your deen is your moral character. How respectful are you? Character is a huge aspect of your deen. A huge aspect of your deen. There are other elements of the deen. And only when you put everything into perspective is when you can say this person is practicing. It may be highly possible that they still do pray their salah. They do all of their 5 pillars. But the person might not have a beard. That person will be better than the person who has a beard, but he is an oppressor. He's a tyrant. Culturally, he kept the beard, not religiously. Likewise for hijab. It may be that she grew up in a family and she wore it, or it was the trend, so she wore it. It doesn't mean everything. Don't base a person's piety and their religiosity on just their outward appearance. If you look at the wealth, then yes. If there's a decent amount, now people have unreal expectations, right? Not practical. Now, a lot of the times why marriage is delayed is because they expect, one, for the men, that they should be educated, they should have a stable job, have a car, have a house. Now by then, I mean, how long are you holding yourself for? 20 years, 25 years? Look at it from the girl's perspective. Nowadays, which is unfortunate and it shouldn't happen, is they are also expected to do exactly what the men do. Exactly. This is not time to go into a discussion of equal rights and blah, blah, blah. Right? But look at the effect of it. They're expected to also study. Complete their study, they're also expected to have their own finances. And they are told by their parents or their peers or somebody else that you should become financially independent, don't rely on your husband. And when you're financially independent, then get married. When they become financially independent, they ask, what's the point of me getting married? I have everything I want. And by then it's too late. If you're hitting 30 and you're not married, then you're losing the chances of finding someone that will marry you. Men will generally go for those who are younger. I wouldn't like to say that you have an expiry date, but in society, people will look at age and they will begin to think, if you're not married by the age of 30, there's something wrong with you. That's how people begin to think. That why is it that you're not married while your younger sibling is married? What's wrong with you? What have you been up to? Why do people reject you? Of course, we don't need to go down that line, but this is how society is. So you got to think early, act early, to avoid all of these obstacles coming your way. Now there's a whole section on what happens now that you're looking, how do you look? Okay? And I'm just going to summarize it in a few words, because I know it's going to be time for Isha. Oh, it's already time. There used to be a society where there will be uncles and aunts that actually look out for people. That may exist to a certain level, but because we live in such an individualistic lifestyle, usually we don't even know people down the road. Be careful of bogus websites. I've had someone come to me and say, look, on a Muslim dating site, if you want to call it, there are those who are there just for a fling. There are also legitimate websites, platforms, and the more local they are to you, the more trustworthy. If you know the people running it, you're more likely to be in safe hands. And why I'm saying that is because some of the questions that have already come is in regards to, are there any legitimate websites? Personally, a lot of people come to me for their daughters, for their sons. There's only an amount I can see the message, and then the message will disappear somewhere in the logs. I don't have a database. But what I have done and what we're in the process of is making a database. So that is in the making. But there are bogus websites. Have one in which you can access those who run the website. Ideally, it should be compliant to Sharia. Ideally, there should be some scholars behind it. And inshallah, if there's anything to take away in a nutshell, one, if you're the one who will be soon getting married, ask yourself, what are you doing to develop yourself, your habits, or your strengths? Getting over your weaknesses. Number one. For those of parents and guardians, think of the age that your children are at. Are they hitting at an age where they should already have been married? What is causing the delay, and is that delay necessary? Is it fard for them to get married? Is it highly recommended? Look into that. You may have to break discussions. Breaking it is better than breaking somebody's life or breaking your own family. And Lastly, there's a big question which I didn't have time to go into at all, and that is the cultural clash. And a lot of youngsters come to me and ask, look, this is so I have found, but my mum and dad say no, because they are from a different background. One might be Pakistani, the other one might be Indian, one might be Sri Lankan, the other one might be from Bangladesh. What do you do? They have this thing, and for the young ones as well, listen to this carefully. Yes, you may come out with Islamic quotes, maybe hadiths, saying, well, Islam doesn't say they have to be from the same race, from the same ethnicity, from the same background. That's what they used to say. They'll pull out a hadith, Bukhari, Muslim, look. And then they begin to go against their own parents, saying that, look at them, they're backwards. I tell you, it's a whole, there's a whole thing that you need to understand. Why your parents say this? Why do they want it from the same background? At the same time, parents may also need to understand where their children are coming from. But that's probably for another time now, inshallah. May Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq, understanding. And for all those who are looking to get married, may Allah Ta'ala grant them pious spouses. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala grant ease and comfort for those who are already married. And may Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala make everyone's marriage one in which Allah Ta'ala blesses them with happiness and comfort.